Well, welcome to this episode of the Botanical Medicine Study Course with me, your host and instructor, Stephanie Georgiev. At the time of the posting of this video, we're into August, which means a yummy time at the farmer's market for sure. Stone fruits are in, the tomatoes are finally ripe, and it's berry season. So, in celebration of one of the season's delicious offerings, we will be exploring mulberries, both black and white, as these are different varieties of the same species or genre, and they're used for different things, but they're both really delicious. Now, the mulberry in general is known as the Morus species. The Latin can be Morus alba for the white mulberry, which is the one that is used in Chinese medicine, and the Morus nigra, which is mostly used in Western herbalism as a dietary therapy. Now, mulberries, regardless of what color they are the fruits of the mulberry trees and are related botanically to figs and breadfruit. The white mulberry is widely cultivated to feed silkworms employed in the production of silk. Apparently, they just love those leaves. And it's noticeable for the rapid release of its pollen, which is launched at a greater than half the speed of sound. So don't stand by a tree uh, when pollen season is in, especially if you're allergic. The berries are edible when ripe. Now, my grandmother in her native Macedonia, which is now Northern Macedonia, to make the Greeks happy, talked about how, as a girl, they had silkworms and would harvest the cocoons for the fabric. And so this was part of all sorts of making everybody happy, this tree. There are white mulberries everywhere here where I'm at now in southwestern Bulgaria. And the fruit is quite prolific, let me tell you. Last summer, I was having an outdoor supper with friends on their deck, which I learned was a white mulberry tree. And the mulberries were literally plopping on our heads and our plates. So I guess if you wanted to collect mulberries, you just put out a very large box and just let the tree do the work. But it was a unique experience to be in amongst falling mulberries. Now, Morus alba, which is known as white mulberry or common mulberry, it's also known as silkworm mulberry. It's a fast growing small to medium sized mulberry tree, but it can grow to anywhere from 10 to 20 meters or 33 to 66 feet tall. And I can tell you here where I live, they're everywhere and they are a good sized tree. Now, it's a generally short lived tree with a lifespan comparable to humans, but some of these trees can grow to up to 250 years old. The species is native to China and India and is widely cultivated and naturalized all sorts of places, including the United States, Mexico, Australia, Kyrgyzstan, Argentina, Iran, Turkey, and I can tell you from personal experience throughout the Balkans. The trees are traditionally grown for their leaves because they are the only food that the silkworms will eat. I guess the silkworms are kind of like the koala bears of worms. And they carry these lovely berries, which can range in color from black, white, or red. But as the alba is definitely the white. And they are made into all sorts of things like wine, fruit juice, tea, jam, but they can also be dried and eaten as a snack. Now, the blackberries are known as Morus nigra. And these are very commonly mostly used for their berry. I haven't read anything or personally used anything other than the berry. And the berry has an affinity for the blood, the kidneys, and the digestive system. And when you look through the older herbal textbooks, particularly British herbals, the fruit, the dark berry, is mostly used as a laxative. The berries are similar to other berries, meaning all berries have something called anthocyanins, which is a type of antioxidant that affects cholesterol. It helps protect against cancer because they're very high in fiber. They even out blood sugar. Um, and because of all the lovely constituents inside there, uh, it's very considered to be preventative of cancer. But this is true of all berries, but particularly the more darker colored berries. So you can't buy like mulberry pills or tinctures, things like that. It's mostly eaten for its benefits, but they also make things like jams and pies and wines and all sorts of lovely things. Now, the white mulberry, because of the color of the fruit, it's called Morus alba. And the Chinese are just so ingenious and so amazing to me. There's certain plants that the Chinese use every aspect of them, and each aspect, each part does different things. And the white mulberry is one of those plants. So the first medicine that is used from the white mulberry is called Sangbai Pi. And this is the root of the white mulberry. So it's the root bark of the white mulberry. And the qualities of this herb in Chinese herbalism, it's sweet and cold, and it enters the lung and spleen meridians. So you know that if something is cold, it's usually good for any type of infection, because if you have a fever or you're creating sputum that is streaked with signs of heat, which is basically blood or yellow pus, anything that's cold will help that. So it's really good for cough. If people have any type of lung infection and they're having a hard time breathing, specifically to lung heat, and this is something with a fever and you're coughing up blood or pus, this is a good herb for that. It also increases urination. So because of that, it relieves edema. So obviously, if you're coughing up blood and pus, you need to go to the doctor. You need to get a chest x-ray, different things like that. And they'll probably put you on, depending on what your diagnosis is, you'll probably be on some form of an antibiotic. But if you want to drink a tea that's going to help everything, this is a wonderful thing to do for that. And a lot of these herbs, specifically in Chinese medicine, they're not usually used individually. They're used in a formula, and this is in a lot of formulas that are specific for chest colds due to heat. Now, the next part is obvious. It's the fruit of the white mulberry. It's called sangshen, and this is considered sweet, sour, and cold. And this herb specifically enters the heart, liver, and kidney meridians. And because of that, it tonifies the liver and kidney, and it also nourishes blood and yin. All of these qualities, sweet, sour, and cold, is very good for yin. And the biggest thing that this does is it moistens dryness. And if you are getting older like me, dryness is your daily challenge. Um, and it also, as you get older, you'll notice things like you're kind of more stiff than usual, and your eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. And this is such a good tonic for blood deficiency, all the things that make aging not pleasant in terms of your physical experience. This is really good for that. It helps with constipation, which is due to blood deficiency in Chinese medicine. It helps with dizziness. It helps with ringing in the ear, tinnitus. Also helps with insomnia, which all of these are things that are involved with kidney deficiency, blood deficiency, things like that. It's good for palpitations, which is obviously related to the heart. And it's also good for early graying hair. So I can't make any guarantees about this, but the Chinese have a lot of herbs that can help you in early stage hair graying, and this is one of them. And again, this is not usually used individually. It's often used in formulas, but if you have a white mulberry tree, I say go for it. Now, the last part of this wonderful tree is the leaves, and the Latin term folium and the Chinese term yi means leaves. So it's sang yi, which is the leaf, excuse me, the leaf of the white mulberry tree. And this is the thing that the silkworms just adore. And it's considered sweet, bitter, and cold. It enters the lung and liver meridians, and anything that's bitter usually astringes. Um, it disperses wind heat, it clears lung heat, and it moistens the dryness. And it also is known for improving vision and anything to do with liver. And I know in Western medicine, this doesn't make any sense, but I can tell you in practice and personal experience, vision is very much related to liver. And liver is related to blood. And if you're deficient in either, your vision doesn't do well. But it's very good at dispersing exterior pathogens, wind heat, clears heat, moistens dryness. It because it's sweet and cold, it moistens the lung, it moistens the body in general. And because it removes liver heat and moistens the yin, it improves eyesight. And there is some modern research looking into the constituents. The constituents of white mulberry leaf have actually been quite studied, and they're looking at it to improve obesity. So I don't know. I know that that means it doesn't make your obesity improve. It basically is being looked at as something to combat obesity. Now, this slide is from my favorite go-to slide company. It's called Science Direct, and this shows some, not all, of the constituents that have been isolated from the white mulberry leaf. And this, in my opinion, is quite, um, quite impressive. And again, some of these constituents are being looked at in terms of how they can help the body basically metabolize fat. There's all sorts of different ways to target obesity, but some people who are made fun of, but it actually is a metabolic issue. They just don't metabolize fat efficiently, let's put it that way. So these are the people that go on strict diets and are exercising and following all kinds of things, and they just can hardly get the fat off their body. And they eat one cookie and expand. And so there are all sorts of ways that the weight loss industry is looking for, and one of them is to metabolize fat more efficiently. Now, cooking with mulberries is basically up to your imagination, but there are all kinds of ways to take mulberries. You can get and specifically each part. So you can, get these really wonderful, it's like instant coffee, only in Chinese herbs. And they're basically freeze-dried teas. And when I was practicing, you could order these teas mixed up in a formula. So you would send off the prescription to your company, and then they would mix these. And it was just much easier. Cooking Chinese herbs is an art, let me tell you. And people often complain they don't have enough time, it stinks up the house, et cetera, et cetera. But these little powdered instant teas are just wonderful. You just add them to warm water, and you can get them all individually, the different plant parts, or as a combination. You can also find these in capsules. You can find single herb capsules. You can also find them in tincture form. So again, usually mulberry, specifically the white mulberry, is part of a formula. And if you feel that you need these, I highly recommend going to a Chinese herbalist and getting a wonderful formula that's just for you. But if you want to, you can take any of these, and there's really no known side effects to them. Like, I don't think you'll miscarry a child, or it doesn't seem to interfere with other medications. It's just always a good idea to get a workup. And also, these are not recommended to take any of these long term. Now, cooking with mulberries is mostly done with black mulberries. I do see things here because they're literally falling from the sky. A lot of people will make jams or something called glico, which is basically sugar preserved fruits, or cooked jams. But there's all kinds of things that you can do with mulberries. You can make wine out of them. You can make jams, pies, syrups. You can make syrups out of them, and they're just really quite delicious. I'm not sure if all the sugar involved with making these delicious things is particularly healthy, but you can certainly incorporate these into your diet as your heart desires. And I have a wonderful link to a site called the Forager Chef, and there are all kinds of wonderful things that this site suggests that you do with black mulberries. And I also have a link on how to make mulberry wine if you want to do that. Now, growing mulberry, if you're like me, I don't know if this song is sung anymore, Dancing Around the Mulberry Bush. Uh, but mulberries can be bushes, particularly the black mulberries, but they're mostly trees. So I have a link in the program notes on how to foster that or grow mulberries on trellises as a bush. And you can do this for either things that you want. I have a wonderful book that I've recommended from the Chelsea Green publishing company. It's called Trees and Shrubs That Heal. And this is just a wonderful compilation of all sorts of trees and shrubs that have been used traditionally for medicine. But the white mulberry would grow just as the black mulberry would. And You just need to know if you grow this in your garden, you will be pelted with mulberries throughout the fruiting season. So, however you want to use this wonderful gift of nature, if you just want to grow it because it's so pretty, if you want to help feed silkworms, this is their leaf of choice. Or if you want to start exploring the different aspects of how this can facilitate health and wellness in your body, either through the white mulberry, which is used extensively in Chinese medicine in many classic formulas, the different parts, or if you just want to, snack on some either white or black mulberries that are just really good for you in general. I hope you come to appreciate this wonderful gift of nature, the mulberry tree and mulberry bush. So this is Stephanie Georgia saying thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with me. Make sure to check out the links below. They're all really fun and informative, especially the link for the trees and shrubs that heal, the Chelsea Green Publishing Company. I guarantee you're going to want a minimum of 5 books from this site. And it's always nice to order directly from small publishers because they benefit the most from that. So this is Stephanie Georgiev saying thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. And until next time, be well.